Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Thursday morning, guys. I want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as seasoned. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Thursday morning, guys. So let's jump right in. Do any of you feel like God is really pressing upon you to start addressing your traumas, right? Maybe different mental disorders or moods, things like that. And these things are, and you know what these things are because you know it's a struggle in your life, or it just may just be one of those things where it's a it has always been a common denominator in your relationships or the things that you've heard. But in most times these things are triggered, I should say, from certain things that you experience in your past, even in your childhood. So let's talk first about some of the traumas that could have happened, and then we'll talk about how it's probably affecting your life now and why God is really pressing upon you now to really, really work on these areas. Even if you don't have money for counseling, he's starting to give you witty ideas. There's little things that he's requiring you to do, and you don't even realize that he's starting you to do things like in a routine form, because routine is what really helps a lot of trauma issues, things like that. So it's like those little small details that he's giving to you to do, and you're kind of just overlooking it like, I mean, but he's giving you certain things that you got to make sure you're tapping into and applying it to your life, because he is really pressing upon you to address certain areas, because you will stay stuck. You will stay stuck. So some people may feel like, well, I mean, I'm justified in having triggers because of the life I've had. And you probably are. Probably are. Some people feel as if, well, if this didn't happen to me, then I wouldn't be this way. Well, you're probably absolutely right. You're right. However, that does not negate the fact that in order for God to take you higher or use you, that you can just stay that way. You have to really try. He will give you grace, right? You can't stay in denial about it, right? So the first step is just admitting what these things is, right? And a lot of you do, because I get a lot of emails about certain triggers and behavior. I'm thinking about one person really right now. She just spazzed out on her boss, and I mean, and I was telling her the fact that you acknowledge and that you're aware that you spaz out on your boss and it's bothering you because you didn't want to do that. That's the first step. How many people would even get to that point? They would just do what they do, and then they would manipulate you and think you're the problem. No, sis, you own that. You own that. And that's where it starts. So when you start owning and acknowledging your stuff, then that gives God room to come in, give you grace to really start working on you in these areas. All right, so let's start with narcs. Of course, there's a lot of people who've had experiences with narcs in relationships and marriages. But if a narc had access to you when you were like a child, very early on, it could have been like a parent or like a sibling, or maybe just like an auntie or someone who grew up in your household. They had access to you early. They did a lot of damage. Narcs in general do a lot of damage on your self-esteem, your emotions, things like that. But imagine being raised around that before your mind is even completely developed. So they implanted things in your mind, and your mind developed around that, versus being an adult and then a narc just kind of doing damage to your confidence, your self-esteem, things like that. So I mean, both ends is very traumatizing. But so we'll talk about some of the triggers after we finish this list. Next, if you had very overbearing parents, these are the parents who would not let you do absolutely anything on your own or for yourself. And maybe in regards to fear that, I don't know, if they expose you to certain things, someone could hurt you, or they were just really trying to save you from having to experience hard falls in life. But truth of the matter is that that's how you learn. You have to make mistakes and then you learn. But some parents can be very, very overbearing. No judgment here because I'm not a parent. So I'm sure it's almost one of those things like I need to protect my child to be sure that nothing ever happens to my child because this happened to me. So because I was molested, I'm going to guard my child even though it's driving them insane. I'm going to keep them from making any mistakes in their lives because I don't want them to experience anything. Next, those of you who were rejected and abandoned. This can look like the form of maybe a parent gave you up for adoption. Maybe a parent had 5 children, but you were the only one who was given to the grandmother to raise, and they raised the other 4 for whatever reason. This can look like the fact that your father always said on Thursdays he would be there at 2 o'clock, and every other Thursday he didn't show, and you're sitting on the porch waiting for him. This can look like the fact that your father can live in the same state, but he won't even acknowledge you. Or he can be married and have a whole family and none of them know about you. There are so many different areas. You could have been bullied in school. So everybody's picking their teams at PE and no one picks you for whatever reason, right? Everybody's leaving you out. So those are just different things that could cause seeds of rejection and abandonment. Next, if you were silenced, this can look like molestation, right? If you ever speak, if you ever tell somebody such and such, I'm going to come back and kill your whole family. Don't speak on this, don't speak on that. Or you can never, ever, ever express your emotions. And when you tried, you only heard, this is my roof, you going to do what I say, I brought you in here, I'll take you out, period. You don't have a voice in here. I pay all the bills. If you want to have a voice, you wait until you're grown. So you were silenced in different ways. So anything that you ever wanted to say or express, it got shut down. This can affect you big time now. I think this is why a lot of people are starting to, maybe not a lot, but I've heard this new wave about gentle parenting. I think this is I'm getting to that. Next thing, just trauma in general. In general. Next, you witness domestic violence. Like you may have came from a household where, I don't know, your mother used to probably pop your dad upside his head with pots and pans, and because it makes it seem like, women are the only one who get abused. It's almost like it was kind of swept under the rug that it's okay for your mother to abuse your father. No, domestic violence is domestic violence. So either you saw or witnessed your mom abusing your dad or vice versa. Big time trauma. You may be dealing with that now. Next, you were outcasted, right? Again, no one wanted you. You were the black sheep in the school. Everyone made fun of you, and you're in the hallway and everybody else is clicked up and they're laughing and they're eating lunch together, and here you are sitting by yourself, and people are like pointing at you or making fun of you, and you're just feeling like, so you were like you were outcast. Next, misunderstood, which typically also can kind of fall in alignment with being outcasted, because again, you're misunderstood. You're not really excluded, if you will, but even if you're clicked up, you ain't got time. Right? So they don't even really, because you're like somewhere in your thoughts, you're like a deep thinker, or you're thinking about like saving the earth, and they're just gossiping about the girl who they don't like, just pettiness. So you don't even feel like you fit in with that nonsense. So it kind of just, you're just there to be there, but you feel outcasted. That was definitely me. Next, you just never felt safe for whatever reason. You could have been raised in a crack house. People knocking on the door, 3-4 o'clock in the morning, you're trying to sleep, you got to go to school, right? There's fighting, there's music, there's foolishness, again, molestation. Maybe you had parents who worked 5 and 6 jobs. They were never ever home, but you were 8 years old, and they taught you to kind of like protect the house, but you're all nervously thinking someone's going to come into the window, and you're trying to protect your younger siblings. But in whatever way, you never ever felt safe, and that can branch off into a number of things. But for the sake of time, I'm talking about parents not being in the household. And granted, it's survival mode. Parents got to do what they got to do, right? But it still does not negate the fact that these are issues that we potentially could be dealing with later on in life, and that could keep us stuck. Next is you were judged for being different. not even in a bad way. Right, you were okay with your difference. Maybe you wanted to travel the world with a guitar, but your family wanted you to join the family business, and you just felt like I don't want to be a mechanic. That's y'all stuff, right? I am very happy with my guitar. I'm very happy. I just want to travel the world. In fact, I don't even want to be caught up in the rat race. I just want to travel the world, be a free spirit, and just sleep wherever I may, and just find my peace in playing the guitar, and just, I'm good. And you truly are good. Like there's, you're not in denial about yourself. You're solid in who you are, but you're being judged for that. You're just a loser. Who in the world would want to travel the world? I mean, how are you going to even provide for yourself? You're supposed to be going to college. You're supposed to be, getting married at, finding your wife at 20, by 23, and having, children in the white picket fence and corporate job, and you retire or work for the family business. You retired, sit on your rocking chair and wait on Jesus. So they made you feel like the scum of the earth because you didn't want to join the family mechanic business. You didn't want a corporate job. You don't want to join the rat race. I can't tell you guys how many homeless people who I meet all the time. I like to sit down and have conversations with them because they're so deep, right? They got so much experience. Not most, a lot of homeless people choose to be homeless. Everybody's not caught up in that rat race of working just to pay a bill and bills, and just you go back to work just to pay a bill, and you're like, that's not everybody's lifestyle, and that's absolutely okay. I'm thinking about getting me a treehouse. Seriously, it's a peace of mind. Next thing, this is very, very common. Someone emailed me about this. Is a struggle of hers about 2 weeks ago. Everyone depended on you when you were a child. This could look like when your parents were working 5 and 6 jobs just to put food on the table. You may have been the oldest child or the responsible child, so you were left to raise all of your siblings. So here you are, 10 years old, but you're microwaving your sibling breakfast, you're brushing up their hair, you know how to wash dishes and keep the house clean like an adult. I'm not speaking about giving a child chores, but almost like a child, a 10-year-old child who can run a household. And you're popping their little gummy vitamins in their mouth, like you're sending them off, like you are a little lady, honey. And so it conditions you. Well, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, but everybody depending on you. In whatever way, everybody depending on you. Next is, this is so common than you hear a lot of people speak about. It is literally, I forgot what it's called, but it could produce a certain type of disorder. I can't think of the name right now, but you were responsible for your parents' emotions. If you Google it, you'll find the name of it. But it's some type of disorder that if you were a child and you were responsible for adult parents' emotions and behaviors. Let's just say that you had a father who was an alcoholic, and he was like that fall down drunk. So when he comes home, he is pissed to high hell. He is pissed up. Honey, let me just tell you, you got to... Kizzy, please get this. You got to peel his little pants off of him, honey. You got to wash him up. You got to get him in the bed. So here you might be a little 5-year little boy, and you sitting there trying to struggle to get your daddy in his bed. Even when he came to the house, he may have already gone in there and start some nonsense with your mom. So now your mom was crying, and you got to go back in the room and let your mom cry on your shoulders. And you are 5 years old. You just came out of the room with your daddy, and not only is he pissed up, he's talking crap. He's talking all kind of foolishness that a child should not hear. Here you are trying to console your mom. Now you back in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can't sleep because you're thinking about how your mom is hurting. Now your daddy doesn't get up out the bed and going in there harass your mama nerves again. Now you're laying in the bed hearing all this drama, all this fighting, everything, a whole zoo. So a child is being responsible for an adult's emotions. This creates, I'm gonna have to Google that word, but all right. So that's my list. I'm sure there are more that I just didn't think about. Maybe we'll do a part 2 with this one. But let's talk about now how all of these things could have affect you right now, right now, and why you're struggling. And then we talk about why you ain't going until you start some type of process to really start working on these things. All right. Some of those behaviors could have created impuls, impulsive behaviors, but I'm trying to say impulsivity. Is that word? Impulsivity? I don't know. So it's almost like you do things without thinking. It's just a natural response. So maybe because you never felt safe, you're just jumpy. It's like survivor mode. So you're jumping all over the place. You're not sitting long enough to really think things through. This is why you're signing up for things. Somebody call you, you say yes to it, and now you're feeling all overwhelmed because you really don't want to do it because you didn't give yourself a chance to really sit there and think about it. Next, addictions as well as eating disorders. So some of these things have caused addictions because what happens with addictions, you're trying to soothe something. There's something in you that needs to be soothed. Let it be if it's heroin. Let it be if it's meth. It could be sugar. It could be you're drinking 12 packs of Coke every day. An addiction is an addiction. It's soothing something. It's porn. So you may not be able to identify why is this addiction so prevalent in my life. But if you really go back to some type of traumas, something is causing that addiction. There's something that you're trying to soothe within your soul. Next, anxiety. Now this is one of my struggles, anxiety. Now I must say I don't have it like ongoing where it's all day, every day, but I do have bouts of anxiety. In fact, it can work against me for sure because I have to always I have to always go back and apologize to people because with anxiety, it kind of, when you're in that mode, it makes you a little snappy and it's not intentional. You're just trying to go through the emotions of thing and you got somebody asking you 35,000 questions. It's like, could you leave me alone for a second, please? Right. So I got to always go back in and apologize for it. However, it works for me because I gets it done. Woo! You want to see somebody get something done? I actually work well and probably better under pressure, if you will. But so it can work against and for you. Next one, depression. Thank God this is something that I do not deal with because from the things I've heard as well as read, that depression is something serious. Something serious. So those of you who deal with depression, just keep your head up, right? Just one day at a time. Next, this is definitely not me, but it irritates me when I meet these type of people. Very needy, not you. Not you, my friends. You can be needy and cling to me anytime you want. I'm speaking in general. Very needy, clingy people. You'll be surprised how your past issues in childhood is causing you to be the clingy person that you are. Next, self-sabotage. This is very common. God be sitting here trying to give us blessings, and here we don't think we're good enough for the things, so we're making up all kind of foolishness. We're starting problems just because we don't even feel like we're good enough to have it. So you're literally self-sabotaging things that God is trying to bring to you. You're making up all kind of stories in your head, on why you shouldn't have it. Next, ruining relationships. That can also be correlated with self-sabotage. God's bringing you great people, right? Because he's ready to get you to where you should be. You already went through a healing season or whatever, but that narc did so much damage to you or because of the rejection and abandonment issues. Here, you're constantly ruining relationships. So it's almost like it's too good to be true. God's sending you a good man, right? He checking on you every night, honey. Like he got to make sure you good. And now you talking about he's a stalker. A good man, honey. The kind of man you pray for, a good man. And now 2 weeks into it, the first week, you're like, oh, this is just so cute. He's just calling, checking on me. Yeah, he will be sure I'm good, right? Child, week 2, you're like, wait a minute, hold up. You got to be a whole stalker. Why are you calling me every time? You just trying to see if I'm home because you want to be sure I'm not up in these streets. I'm home. You are a stalker. Why are you stressing me? I don't like you anymore. Straight self-sabotage. in relationships, even friends. God send people to you who are destiny partners. And certain stories are playing in your head. I think she may be a witch. I think she may want my man. I think she's such and such. Why she don't have her? Why she not raising her children? Why her mom? Something ain't right with her. Just foolishness. Next thing. I got a touch of this too, but I don't want to claim it. But whatever, it is what it is. You got to claim it in order for God to work on it. And that's adult ADHD. You can't focus on one thing. I mean, you're sitting here eating your dinner, you're checking your messages, the kids are probably yelling in the background, you're telling them what to go get out the dryer. You got 50,000 things going on at one time. And it's not even the equivalent of multitasking, because I'm a great multitasker. I got that from my mom, truth be told. I'm a great multitasker. But there are times when you're doing it even when it doesn't require you to be multitasking. Like you may have to multitask, let's just say in the mornings, right? Because the mornings are busy. You got to get the kids at the house. Your husband needs his breakfast. You got to do this. So you may have to be required to multitask. But I'm speaking about you may now be at work on your lunch break. And rather than you just sit there and enjoy your food, what's happening? You're trying to enjoy the food. You got the window down talking to the birds. The radio is on. You're trying to flip through the stations. You're looking at Instagram. Child, it's a whole zoo, honey. So ADHD, just constantly can't concentrate on one thing. You're just all over the place. Next thing, lack of boundaries. Very, very common from some of the issues up top, traumas, etc., etc. Lack of boundaries. You don't know how to put your foot down, or if you put your foot down, if somebody press upon you hard enough, you're going to just let that boundary, move to the side, especially if the person is a manipulator, right? Because manipulators, they don't respect boundaries, period, right? They're going to keep pressing upon you, and then when you snap at them, they're going to make you seem like, oh, you're the issue. You're just always snapping at me. Okay, so we're not going to speak about you disregarding these boundaries, and you have harassing my nerve when I done told you to leave me alone. Next thing. Oh, this is child, please. This is probably about 80% of people probably. You're guarded. You are guarded. And I mean, to be guarded is good, because I'm definitely guarded. Well, I'm more private than guarded. Yeah, I'm more private than guarded. But being guarded is not a bad thing. I think it's wise, but some people are so guarded that you are literally keeping the people out that God is trying to bring to you. Because you're so paranoid, and paranoid is another thing, right? You're so guarded and paranoid that you're in a season where God is trying to really bring people to you. He's trying to bring that kingdom wife to you, that kingdom man to you, because he know you chose on your own and you chose wrong big time. So he's trying to help you out and really send some people that's going to really, really turn your life upside down. He's trying to give you the life that you deserve, but you're still keeping people out because you're so guarded. And now you got to have 37,000 signs that she's the one. Lord, please give me a sign that, you said this is her. Give me a sign, Lord, that her spirit is right, because Kizzy always say, test the spirit. The visual is fine, but test the spirit. All right, so God give you a clear sign 5 times in an hour. And the next day, God, can you give me one more sign that, I just want to be sure she's not... Guarded. Next. Woo! I might as well flip this little table. Listen, because this is all me right here. Woo! Lord, I thank you for grace, because my God, I've gotten through that season, and I don't have it mastered, but I am so much better now. And that is, your mouth have gotten ahead of you too many times, honey. Your mouth have gotten you in trouble. That mouth have caused you to lose that job 50 times. That mouth have caused you to lose that relationship. That mouth have caused you, like your mouth have done some damage, right? You might have gotten away with it with certain things, just like your average day people or whatever. But you done ruined some things. And when you went back to try to make it right, you couldn't make it right. That mouth is getting ahead of you. Trust me. Been there, done that. I've learned the hard way, so I'm trying to help you now. You better close that mouth. You better ask God for grace to cover that mouth, honey, when it comes to certain things. Because everybody ain't going to deal with it. Everybody ain't going to give you a second chance. Lord, thank you. Thank you for working with me through that, honey. Because, woo, let me just tell you, honey. All right, next thing. Very, 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 very common. And a lot of people don't even realize that they carry this. And that is that seed of defensiveness. That seed of defensiveness, which definitely comes from a lot of the things up top that we spoke about. Lastly, actually, I think I spoke about this. Just that overbearingness. Well, no, I actually spoke about it earlier in regards to the parents. But if you had overbearing parents, it could also have taught you to be an overbearing person. So you're one of those people who, honey, you button in everybody's business. Nobody asks you to even butt in, right? You're butting into everybody's lifestyle. You are going from door to door and injecting yourself in people's lives, telling them how to change, why they got to change. They need to do this. They got to do this, and this God don't like this, and you da. You are interjecting yourself in everybody's life, and these are people who didn't ask you. These are people who you're not even called to. But and a lot of times what you don't realize what you're doing is you're trying to ignore your own trauma. See, when God starts dealing with your areas of triggers and traumas, you will be required to sit in it. You have to feel it. You have to feel it. This is why addiction is, well, one reason why addiction is so prevalent, because when you feel the trauma, that means you have to relive it. That means you have to think about the moments. You have to remember the sounds of your dad throwing down vodka bottles and throwing them at your mama. You got to remember. You have to feel when that person touched you. You got to. And so this is why people reach for the addiction, right? Whatever the thing is, the food, the vodka, the cigarettes, the porn, the this, that. So they're soothing that little area of trauma. And then before you know it, the addiction turned into a disease because you're just doing it to soothe the area, but now your body becomes chemically dependent on it. Not for everybody, of course, because everybody's body's chemistry is different. So anyway, all right, all that we talk about. Why is God bringing this stuff to you all of a sudden, tapping you on your shoulder, telling you, hey, listen here. Whatever he's telling you, he may be telling you, I need you to start therapy. I know you've heard all your life that therapy is not for Black folks, and we don't speak outside our house, and what goes on in our house stays in our house, right? But I'm coming to you and I'm telling you, you're chosen. So I need you to break that cycle. That's what they say, right? But I need you to break the cycle. You're chosen. So you go do it for the first time, and you'll be surprised how the others follow. You'll be surprised how when you get healed, you can go back and heal the others. Or God may be saying to you, well, therapy is not for you, right? However, if you press into the Holy Spirit and you ask the Holy Spirit to guide you and to alert you and to convict you of the areas of struggles, the Holy Spirit then will give you certain ideas and certain things to do and to acknowledge. And I'm going to heal you through grace, right? Or he may start saying, I've heard a lot of people, including myself, who've been convicted to start routines. This can look like routines with your skincare and your hair care. For me, it's the morning routine. Like, morning routines was something I ain't had time for it, right? I ain't got time for that. I got to get out this house. But of course, I'm always obedient. So now my morning consists of, of course, the Jesus Calling. I read first and I upload it for you guys. Then I have to journal. Then I have to read the word. And so but I have to consistently do it. You'll be surprised how consistency on something really, really helps you get balance. So if God has been pressing upon you that he wants you to start here in a skincare, he needs you 4 nights out the week, I'm just saying, to do it at a certain time, do it a certain way. I don't care if you're tired, get up off of that couch and go moisturize your hair and your face, and I need you to do it now, right? See, your obedience is what's going to keep you grounded. I don't think people just want to do certain things just to be consistent. You just have to. You have to be accountable to something. So if you're accountable to the Holy Spirit, each time you're convicted, right? That grace is truly going to help you, even if you missed the mark. Because I think there were like 2 days this month that I really got pressed for time. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to have to post this Jesus calling when I get home. But I did it. I came back in the middle of the evening and I posted it. So it's not about perfection, but it's about trying. That may look like I need you to start working out. Because believe it or not, working out really relieves a lot of stress. This is why you can also see some, all caps, some, not all. Some people are they're in the gym, but they're addicted to the gym. Not because they love it and they want to stay in shape, but I mean absolutely addicted. That's also another type of addictions. So the person at the gym may not be the alcoholic. In fact, they may not even touch alcohol, but their addiction is working out, because working out does relieve certain type of stress, etc., 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 etc. So he may be telling you to go start walking in nature. I've been getting that conviction lately, right? As much as I love nature, I'd be too paranoid, like a snake gonna fall off the tree and these. I'd be so paranoid, right? But but he may start convicting you to walk in nature. These are things just popping up to the top of my head. He may convict you to start some type of group therapy Zoom session where there are other people like you. You guys can kind of just sit down and talk about your own thoughts. And you will realize that you're not the only one who got these issues. In fact, most people do, but most people keep them hidden. And now you're feeling like you're just the only outcast person in the world who deals with triggers. Ciao. It is so common. All these things that we're speaking about is very common. That's why I tell people, stop looking at people's lives that people have it all together. Some people just have it all together by masking their stuff. Their life is not perfect, regardless of what they make it look like on social media. Everybody have issues. Everybody have demons. Everybody have problems. But it doesn't mean these things have to overpower you, right? So why is God pressing upon you? Because where you're going, that stuff can't go. God can't bring people in your life. God can't bring the kingdom purpose partners, and you're going to sabotage. You're going to sabotage it. This man got to go out of town for 3 days for work or whatever, and you're blowing up this phone every 2 minutes because you feel like he's abandoning you. All you're doing just exactly what my daddy did. My daddy said he will be back, and now you won't come back. Oh my God. I got a headache just thinking about goodness gracious. You're going to sabotage it. Or because you have abandonment issues you don't like to be alone. You just got to have somebody up under you. You're very clingy. So to think that this man or this woman have to go out of town for 3 days. I mean, so this is why tapping into your purpose and your calling is also crucial. Because when you got purpose and calling yourself, listen, he got to go out of town for 3 days. You should be doing something for 3 days yourself. Not just sitting there harassing his nerves, waiting on him to come home. That's a turn off. For me, it's a turn off for sure. Please don't harass my nerves. I'm out here, trying to do the work of the Lord, sir. I'll be home to rub your feet. So, yes, ladies, I said that. God is going to start giving some of you guys ministry, and again, that's not always church, right? But ministries where, because God is doing so many things non-traditionally, where you're going to be responsible for starting certain type of ministries. It might be called the ministry of the outcast, honey, whatever. And there's going to be a lot of different personalities that you have to deal with, right? So if you're very defensive, for one of the things we talked about earlier, a person who says something to you, and they could just be trying to be petty, who knows, but maybe not. But the point is, you're going to have to learn how to deal with different personalities and different people. But if you're walking around with seeds of defensiveness and seeds of offense, that was big for me. Because typically when you're misunderstood, you become a rebel. Like, you know what? I'm tired of trying to prove that y'all. So, you're going to get all this, period, right? Okay. So if you typically deal with being outcast or misunderstood or rejected, then there's a good chance you've developed some type of seat of defense, seat of offense, and you don't even realize that it's there, right? God may start, the reason why he's pressing upon you to stop being so judgmental is because he may start bringing people to your ministry who may have 30 piercings in their face, right? And they may look like a whole demon in your mind, right? And this may be a person that could be plagued with demons for whatever reasons, but God may need you to really start to try to love on this person without you being judgmental. And before you know it, you bring that person in versus being judgmental because of, other things in your past or whatever the case may be. My narc abuse, listen, my narc abuse folks, if you've encountered a narc, you probably have had major self-esteem issues, confidence issues. In fact, you second guess yourself about everything, because with a narc, they basically condition you to think that you're not enough, that anything you do is just not good and things like that. So you may start to really feel like everything that God sends to you is out to get you because you're paranoid from the narc abuse, right? They do so much damage that anything God is trying to bring to you, you feel like the person is they want something from you, and they're trying to come into your life and take over to abuse you and tell you, you're feeling all good. Like, I finally found my footing. I'm not letting nobody ever in my lifetime, ever back in my life. So I have to experience all that stuff that I've done healed from. Well, if you've healed from it, then that wouldn't be an issue. If you healed from it, you know the signs early on, right? So you got to let people in after discernment, of course. But there are people that God is going to send to you, and you gotta be vulnerable. And not speaking of that, vulnerability to people who really just had to put a shell up for whatever reason. Maybe they've been hurt very early on. You're going to have to learn the art of being protective but still vulnerable, if that makes sense. This is why it's crucial to be sure you're so tapped in spiritually, because when God sends people, this is just from my experience, right? If it's me, let's just say it's just me and I'm just randomly kind of just, I don't know, doing some things or whatever, and I meet somebody, whatever. My discernment alone always tell me yay or nay. If I ever ignore it, then I get burned, which is very, 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 very rare. However, let me tell you guys something that I picked up on. Well, I've always picked up on it, but it happened to me a couple of days ago. I won't even get into it because I don't want to discredit anybody. Okay, so sometimes when you meet a person, right, and you could have great discernment. So usually when you have discernment, your spirit tells you yes or no. There's no gray area. In fact, if there's gray areas, it's no, right? Because when you meet people, if they're right, there's a lightness, there's a freeing, there's just a peace that surpasses all understanding. It's like rabbits and clouds, and it's just beautiful. But a couple of days ago, I met a gentleman. Not like that. No, seriously, not like that, right? He's actually a public figure. I didn't know it at the time. In the gospel world, major, right? So I was in the grocery store. He lived in the same area as I do, obviously. He just moved in the area, matter of fact. So as I was speaking to him, he was just speaking to me about something. I forgot what it was, something in the store. And then as we started to speak, and then he said his name, and I was like, that name sounds very, very familiar, right? And so when I looked at him, he said, well, yeah, I'm such and such. If you Google it, you da-da-da-da-da. But then my spirit just kept saying, something ain't right. Right? Not to say that all gospel people are pure, because that's a lie from the pits of hell, right? But it wasn't an evil feeling, but then it wasn't that bunny and clouds feeling. It was kind of the gray area. So immediately I said, spirit ain't right because it's gray. If it's gray, I ain't got time, right? I didn't say that, or I didn't even act no type of way. But when I got in the car, the Holy Spirit said to me, with some people, that gray area is not that they're a bad person. That gray area is they're guarded and they're protected because of their own secrets. And mind you, my own discernment had already told me that this man who is married struggles with homosexuality, right? Now, the average eye couldn't really just look at it and see it, but my discernment had already told me that as he was speaking to me. So then the Holy Spirit checked me when I got in my truck to say, be very careful that you're not putting people in the category of being bad or demonic or evil or whatever, because you can't get a very, very, very clear read instantly. Because for me, it's instantly, right? Either you're good, you going in the white bunny tails and clouds, or you going up in this dark area, and that's where you're going to stay because I ain't got time. But all of a sudden now, he's pressing upon me, be careful with the gray areas, because the gray areas doesn't always mean bad. This man could have been molested and violated as a child, right? This man can really be struggling. And I don't know for a fact, right? I'm just saying, right? He could have been struggling with some homosexuality. And that could be his lifestyle. He could be happy, or he could just be struggling with it and don't even want to, or he can be conflicted because, of course, in the gospel world, right? So all these different things that's going on may have caused him to be so guarded. His spirit is guarded. So when I encounter him, I can't even tap in to get what I need to feel. I can't feel the white or the black. But it's not that his spirit is bad. It's just that he got his own stuff going on. And he's closed. He's closed this. I don't know why I'm on this, but I can't get up off of this. But he's so closed where I can't even tap in when I need to tap in. But if that was something in regards to, okay, let's just say that happened with a person and I felt like God wanted me to, this person was an assignment or this person was somebody to be into my life. I still, even with that gray area, I still won't just jump head first. I got to really, 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 really hear from God before I open certain doors, even with that gray area that may just be a protective area, if that makes sense. So anyway, guys, I wanted to share that, but either which way, so many of you are at the door, but be careful that your issues from your past traumas is not causing certain behaviors that's going to affect destiny. Because I'm telling you, as much as God loves you and loves us, if I didn't learn anything else, one thing I learned is that God will not give you certain access until you heal certain areas. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.